Hi, everyone. Doug here. Welcome to another episode of FitFam podcast. A little bit different today. Doug, the Formulator. Normally, we would have Miss Olympia Hillary with us, and she'll be on the future ones, but we are doing a new segment. And this segment that we're doing that will pop up every once in a while in the FitFam podcast series is our What's Up Doc segment. And that's where we bring in one of the most prominent doctors around the nation and the world to talk about specific subjects, whether it be a PhD like Dr. Porter today, or a medical doctor, or chiro, or anyone that's really disrupted the norm. And what I mean by that is the way the world's going, this nature of taking you through the circle of disease, through the bad foods and the chemicals and then the drugs and then the surgeries and then around and around. Something has to give to disrupt that. And one of the biggest disruptors in the market in a positive way is my good friend, Dr. Patrick Porter, inventor of BrainTap, one of the absolute most phenomenal speakers on stage live that I've ever been a part of. Just his way to teach the audience from data, but also with stories to get them to really grasp the meaning of taking care of the body, in this case, the brain, and being able to leave the events with an actual game plan. And so, Dr. Porter, welcome to the What's Up, Doc series.
Well, it's great to be here, Doug. Thanks for having me.
And just as a little bit of an intro, um, you know, you're known as one of the best brain mapping doctors, I think, in the world, with the work you do, the research you do, and give us a little bit of a background as to what got you into focusing on the brain and tapping into its power.
Yeah. Well, from an early age, my dad was involved in this field, being a meditation teacher with something called the Silva method. And then I started a franchise company for addictions because I wrote programs for the state of Arizona, actually, for DUIs. And so we noticed that people weren't drinking to get high. That's the misconception people have. They were drinking to get balanced. And so they didn't know how to get balanced. So they were using alcohol. And I'm not saying everyone, young kids and things like that, might be doing it to get high. But when somebody has a real problem, they're really using it as a medicine, but it's not working because, these chemicals you put in your body, they just take over. And old school psychology, my background, there's never been a study that I've seen. If somebody's out there has it, they can send it to me. I will eat my words. But I've never seen a study that showed better than 12% effectiveness in talk therapy, which means they're talking people out of the change. The placebo is 40%. So I wanted to find, what could I do as a therapist that would get better results? And that led me to things like neurolinguistic programming, relaxation techniques, visualization. And then with what we were doing with the Silva sound, they call it, we got into light, sound, and vibration. And that's where I've been for the last 35 years, and actually started right there in Scottsdale, Arizona with that. And so I think that when you think about physiology, and a lot of people don't realize that when you're building your body physically, you're actually building your brain. But then if you want to get real maximum neuroplasticity, which means to get the brain to really work for you, you got to have some recovery time. So people like Tom Brady and TBRX, they have a saying, for 1 minute of exercise, you need 2 minutes of recovery time. Now, I don't think you need to do all that because you're not a professional athlete. You're not working your body that hard. But I believe that just like doing yoga or Tai Chi or any of these, they always have you do a little relaxation afterwards. Well, in India, they've proven that that's time when your body really builds that neuroplasticity. So, and that's really what we need now as we age. We need to physically work. We need to eat nutritionally sound foods or get supplementation. Nobody can get it from the grocery store anymore unless you're living on some other planet that has really good soil. And then you need to do some kind of brain fitness. In the same way we work out our body, we need to start working out our brain. So that's really where I'm coming from. And the reason it's a disruption in the field is everyone in my business thinks, hey, I know people that have been going to some of my friends for 20 years. They've been their therapist for 20 years. I go, well, they're not that good. Why would it take you 20 years? You've been going to the therapist longer than you had the problem. It's like we need to solve these problems and move on. And I think that there's a different mindset now. It's something called positive psychology. And that's really what we focus on.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear because, We work with together, people from all different fields. We focus a lot with health professionals. We both teach doctors for a living and helping them be more holistic, understand the power of exercise, nutrition, supplementation, but the brain being a huge part of it. I mean, it's the first part of our acronym, and I think people think optimal health systems and what I do is more about nutrition, supplementation, exercise. But the first part of our acronym, FIT of fitness, is focus, intense thought. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. And I think that's where I rely a lot on you and your research to help some of these top level executives, busy fathers, mothers, housewives, athletes really, come to a place where they can have tools to immediately utilize in their daily routine to help them with that neuroplasticity, that ability to, have the roads meet and be able to, the thoughts that they're wanting to have happen continuously happen and the actions actually come out of those thoughts. And it's really, really great that work that you're doing. And I think that, since we spoke together for hundreds of times all around the nation on different subjects, there's so many different areas we could go down. But I'd like to just for a minute today, because of the nature of this podcast, of the FitFam podcast, could you talk to maybe families, whether it is the patriarch of the home, what the husband, many times the patriarch of the home has to be the mom because of situations.
Mhm.
But what do you feel they should be doing on a daily basis to help wire the mind to be able to enable them to be the best patriarch for their home, the best leader for their home, for their children and what they have?
Right. Well, as we talked earlier, you got to eat well. That's number one. Then you got to do some kind of movement. And if you can get your kids involved, if you have kids, the best thing you can do is show them, not tell them. Because, if you show them you're doing it, then they'll mimic you. The Queen Elizabeth said it, we learn like monkeys from our parents. So you have to do what you say you're going to do and then do it and if you can do it with them, that would be best. Now, in the stress world, everyone has stress. So your kids have stress, you have stress, but the worst thing that can happen is you let stress rule your behaviors because emotion drives behaviors. And we all know if you have a high negative emotional state, you can make decisions you're not really happy with.
Yeah.
If you could just step back out and get rid of that stress, you'd make better decisions. So we've proven with science that if you take 10 to 20 minutes sometime during your day to just offload that stress, think of it like you're loading up all day long. The cells are building up the stress in the cells. They call it piezo energy. We actually have energy in the cells that builds up, and then we have to release it. That's why physical exercise is good. So we're releasing that energy, we're releasing the sugar, all the things that happen through physical exercise. That's why actually weight workout is better than the other kind of workout. So we're getting that kinetic energy out of our body. Now we need to train our brain, the neurophysiology. I like to tell people there is no mental health crisis in America. It's a physiological problem that we have. It's their nervous system is locked up in something called sympathetic drive. So if you get up in the morning and you're a single parent, that's even worse because now you have all the responsibility. There's no shared responsibility across the home. Like you're saying, sometimes the mother or the father has to be the only
Yeah.
parent. So, but if you were sharing the responsibilities too, there needs to be communication and all of those things. There's always stress. If somebody says to me, I don't want stress, I always say there's only one time in your life when you don't have stress, and that's the moment of death. So our body and our brain actually learns through stress. What we want to have is capacity. Like they say, we don't pray to God to get rid of our the things that are stressing us. Give us the capacity to handle them, manage them, and do the right thing. Well, that's where brain fitness comes in. So we did one study that I'll share with the group that makes a lot of sense. We did a study with moms. There's a group of parents that they were told that their kids were autistic and there was nothing they could do. They had to take this medicine the rest of their life. And the mothers, they have an acronym for it, but it's just Mothers Against whatever, stupid decisions or something. I don't know what it is, but it's like they decided that they were not going to follow the directions that were just basically because the medicine has been proven to only abate the program. It doesn't do anything to fix it. It basically just puts the brain on hold. We've shown that any medicine you're taking for the brain, whether it's an SSRI or whatever, it doesn't fix the brain. What it does is it basically puts a black tape over the idiot light, like in your car, that says you have an engine problem. We need to fix the problem. So what we did was we took these mothers and I told them beforehand, I said, we're going to do a study with you. We're going to see what your stress levels are. Now I knew that they had PTSD, because imagine you have a child that has been compromised. And some of these people were compromised because of maybe something happened to them during the birth cycle, or maybe a shot they were given, something happened to them and they couldn't explain it. One day their child was fine. The next day they have these problems. And so now every day they get up, they don't know what's going to happen. Their child needs constant care. It's almost, and also think of the people out there too that are, this would be the same thing if you're taking care of your elderly parent, because the same thing's true with them. So it's like the beginning of life and the end of life. You got to have a caregiver. If you don't take care of yourself, who are you going to pay to take care of you, right? So with this group, I said, we don't want to do the study with your kids right now. I want to do the study with you. And what happened was we did a 10-week study with them. We told them just take 10 minutes and do a BrainTap session and make sure that your child sees you doing it. And they said, why is that important? I said, you'll find out about the 4th or 5th week. And so what happened was, we knew this because I've done hundreds of thousands of people over the last 35 years and helped them train them. About the 4th or 5th week, the kids were asking to do the BrainTap. What we found was if the parent was just giving them the BrainTap to use without them using it, the kids would resist it, thinking it was a punishment. But as soon as, in the parents, what we showed them was by taking the 10-minute break, we were able to lower their stress over 43%. Their sleeping scores improved almost 64%.
Wow.
By taking and unloading that stress that I'm talking about. So what you can do as a parent, if you want to do anything, you need to have recovery time. Now, if you can't do it at 2:00 in the afternoon, and there's a reason for that, our temperature actually decreases 2 degrees every day at 2 p.m. And this is because of the cyclic nature. And that's actually, the sun is telling our body what to do. So at 10 o'clock when we go to sleep, we're making more melatonin between 10 and 12 than we do the rest of the night. At 11 o'clock, our body is told to clean its liver. If we don't get to bed by 11 o'clock, our liver doesn't get the same cleansing process. So what we told them was, our body is designed to take a power nap, really. You think about it, you're foraging, you're hunting and gathering, and you're tired in the middle of the day, you're going to find a place to take a nap, because these bodies were designed for the Serengeti, not for, Arizona or North Carolina. So here we are. So that's the number one thing. Now, if you can't do that, then you can do something like a 4-8 breath right before going to bed, because sleep is the key to maximizing your stress. And what I mean by that is we need to offload and get the best night's sleep possible. And it's not about time in bed. So many people think, oh, I got to get 8 hours sleep. That's hogwash. All the studies show that 6.5 hours is the best amount of time for sleep. And even though your doctor will probably tell you 8 hours, remember, doctors only are told what the pharmaceutical rep tells them to tell you. They're not that educated. I know a lot of them. They basically regurgitate. They're really smart about their profession, but they're not smart about life skills. I mean, the average doctor actually dies about 54. So, I mean, the medical doctor now I'm talking about. So I wouldn't go to them for any health advice. I go to them if I have a broken leg or I need a surgery.
Right. Save your life advice.
Yes. Yeah. So, but when you go to a health practitioner, you want somebody who's already done it. So what we know is if you sleep well, you live well. So this 4-8 breath is very simple to do. You breathe into the mental count of 4, you breathe out to the count of 8. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're exercising a part of the system that most people never exercise. You're exercising the nervous system. When you breathe in, you're actually triggering the sympathetic system. This system of the body is your fight or flight response. It's not a villain. It's not a bad guy. We need that. That's what helps you when you're doing your workout. That's what helps you when you get up in the morning. It creates norepinephrine, cortisol and dopamine, all the things we need to get us moving. That's why we've created the civilization we have. It's not a bad thing. But the problem is that some people put the gas pedal down to the floor and they never put on the brake. So that's why you breathe out twice as long. And when you're breathing out twice as long to that count of 8, you'll feel the stress literally melt away, because that's triggering the parasympathetic system. That's your rest, digest, and recovery system. Now, as you're doing that, and then what's really key to this really working well is don't eat anything solid for 2 to 3 hours before going to bed, because your digestive system is basically who you are, other than your brain. And your brain takes up 25% of the energy, but when you're digesting, it takes most of that energy to digest the food. So you don't want to be eating and then going to bed. Actually, we've shown in studies, like alcohol, especially, if you drink alcohol before going to bed, you're going to be asleep, but your body's going to be awake. We did this with a study in Australia, where we showed the coal miners, their average night sleep of the coal miners was 10 hours in bed. Their deep sleep score before we did the BrainTap intervention was 1 minute, but they were in bed for 10 hours. They had literally no REM sleep to even man. Usually you have twice as much REM as you have deep, and you need both of those to really effectively deal with stress. So think of deep sleep. We call it delta sleep or level 4 sleep. This opens up the glial lymphatic system in the brain. This detoxes the brain. This will get you thinking better, responding better, making better decisions. It also, when you sleep well, you build up something called the neurotransmitter bank account. This is what's going to have you handle your children better, make better business decisions, have more peak performance moments. But if you don't get that sleep, and you have an Aura Ring or a Whoop or a BioStrap or any of those kind of devices, you're going to notice that day you're not making really good decisions. So preparing for sleep is important, but doing that little exercise before sleep is even more important, because whatever you think about, and then if you want to up level that a little bit, once you get creative, start thinking about all the things you're grateful for while you're doing it. Because there's been studies that show, and we've shown it too, that when you start thinking about those things you're grateful for or thankful for, sure, there's a lot of bad things that happen all day long, but you want to focus on the positive before bed, because then your subconscious, which is running 95% of your life, takes over and creates dreams that create more of those experiences. And what I mean by that is we always have options. Whatever happens to you happens through you. So you have to think about what's going on through you right now. And when you dream about something that's positive, so those are things people can do right now, Doug. And if they do them, they'll probably find that their sleep scores will improve and maximize. Now, of course, if they have the BrainTap, they're listening to this, you just listen to one of the sleep programs and we'll guide you through some breathing exercises. But if you don't have it, then you can start using that today.
All right, so let's kind of bring it back a little bit. There's people listening to this that know what BrainTap is. There's people that have no clue what it is. So I'm going to kind of guide through some of what you said, that if people are wanting to improve their life by improving their focused, intense thought, right? The most important part of health and fitness is the mindset. Then one, doing the 4-8 breathing before bed, thinking grateful thoughts, that everyone can do that, no cost whatsoever. The other is to do a BrainTap session either then, or if you can, best to do it around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, just so everyone knows, a BrainTap session is Dr. Porter's put together this great tool that you're able to, through sound, through sight, through light, be able to put on your head, and almost like a fighter from Star Wars look, you have it, and he'll explain it a little better. But just for everyone, from my perspective, you put this on, and then there's this countless programs that you could run through it, either Bluetooth wise or plugged into it, that will help you in all areas of life. This conversation today is about sleep, that helps you become a better patriarch, that helps you become a better athlete, helps you become just more energetic in life. And just focusing on the sleep aspect of it, you listen to one of those programs within a sleep module, right, that's on their app, and you're doing that session with the special device on, and that's what will get you into the right frame of mind, or to get you prepared to get into delta sleep at night or during the day, to basically revitalize the body so that you can handle the rest of the day's stressors and be able to have that not affect you, the additional cortisol and that in the body. So I really like that a lot. And just I'm going to ask you to explain the BrainTap device really quick, and then I'm going to tell everyone the best place to come to actually be able to test it and utilize it. But before you explain that, I think that it's important for everyone to understand that we're discussing something that's so critical to the nature of optimal health, that every single one of me and Hillary's concierge clients, every single one. So we're talking these people, $500 million and above type companies, every single one of them, if they sign up on a concierge health coach program with us, day one, we send out a kit, and in that kit is their digestive enzymes for the digestive part of that you talked about, the blood work, all the stuff, but in it is a BrainTap kit. In other words, the actual thing they put on, the sessions, right? We prepay the sessions from you for the whole year. And it's that critical that every single one of our clients does BrainTap. They have the BrainTap headset. And so this isn't something we're just talking about. This is something I deeply believe in. I am so closely related to Dr. Porter from the standpoint of our mission. We just both go about it with our specialty, mine being nutrition, exercise, supplementation, his being the brain. And so I probably butchered what the BrainTap headset is, but can you maybe explain that really quick for people so
Sure.
they know what BrainTap is?
First of all, Doug, the listeners should know that we got into this because of nutrition. That's how we got into it. My mother went to an iridologist and she found out that we were all spazzes because we were on sugar and dyes and all those things. So when I was growing up, those that remember, I was told in my high school that I would replace Yule Gibbons in the grape nuts commercials. That's how crazy. Back in the 70s, not many people were eating like I was eating. And Michael, my brother, which he's our educational director. So nutrition is key component to this. You can't outthink a bad diet. So that's why we're working together too. And then BrainTap is a way to work your nervous system. So while we're standing here talking right now, every cell has something called a mirror neuron. That mirror neuron is basically evaluating our environment, mirroring its frequency, and then playing that back to our nervous system. And then it either puts us into fight or flight or relaxation if we're safe, whatever. Now, it's doing literally hundreds of thousands of things, not just one thing. So that's why EMF will hurt some people, or different foods might. Everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you see, everything you hear, everything you say to yourself, everything someone says to you, they're all playing a role in your DNA makeup right now as we're speaking. It's either upregulating your DNA every 40 seconds or downregulating your DNA every 40 seconds. So that's why it's so important that we stay vigilant with negative thoughts, that we don't get consumed by them. So what we did is your physiological state is super important for changing brain function. So if you're in a state of fear, you can't digest, metabolize, and use those nutritional products because your gut, all the blood leaves your gut to your extremities because your body thinks you're being chased by a tiger. So there's no tiger. But the body then also creates insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, to get the sugar that was just dropped from your liver into the bloodstream. So there's a cascade of really negative things that happen when you're stressed out. So what we did is we're going to stress the brain a little bit, but it's going to be fun, like a game. When somebody plays a sport, some people will play a sport like bodybuilding. It's an individual sport. You go there and you compete against yourself, maybe in the gym or in competition. Some people will play a game like golf where you're playing against nature, and it's stressful, and there's a reason why only a small percentage of people stay with golf, because it's stressful and they don't like that stress. It's not fun for them. But if you have a high tolerance for challenge, you'll like golf. If you don't, you won't. So when we do, what we had to find was, how can we trigger the brain? We use flashing lights. We call it retinal flashing. Your eyes are closed, but we're really using the scientific term is cranial nerve 2. It's actually being triggered to keep the brain awake. So when you're meditating, if you're a meditator out there, or you're not a meditator because you tried, but your monkey mind took over and you couldn't meditate, what we found is that we can downregulate what's called the default mode network. That's the network, that's that monkey mind that keeps talking to you all day long. We found that when you're exposed to these lights, we're keeping the brain awake and we're turning down the default mode network. So we're quieting the mind. So instantly now we're in a better space. Now, some people go, why do you have lights in the ears? So we have lights in the eyes and the ears. It's mainly because we want to bring energy into the brain. So when you think about brain function, there's one nutrient that most people forget about. It's light. It's the most underprescribed nutrient on earth. And so we don't get outside enough. We're designed to be, when the sun's out, we should be out. But they now say that even if we're out all day long, we're not going to get enough vitamin D. So we have to supplement it. But our cells love light. And we use 470 nanometer and 650 nanometer light because those are healing light frequencies for the body. We put those in the ears because our doctors were using lasers in auricular points, which means acupuncture points in the ears. So you can use needles, you can use seeds, you can use pressure points, you can use rocks or stones. You can now use lasers and light, but there's also something called photobiomodulation. And my science officer who wrote the book Photobiomodulation in the Brain for Dr. Hamlet at Harvard, when he came on board, I said, Francisco, let's do some research. Let's see if we can bathe the ears with light and see if they'll track down through the meridians. Now we have a technology called NeuroCheck where we prove that. So we're using light to bring energy into the body because you've probably heard the expression, my kid's too tired to sleep. Well,
Yeah.
most adults are too tired to meditate. They're too tired to sleep. And they think it's not about food that they need. Of course, they need good nutrition, but they need energy at the cellular level. So they need things like nitric oxide, release and things like that. And this is what light does: vasodilation, blood flow, circulation. It's going to be a delivery system for those nutrients to the brain. So that's why we have the BrainTap pack with you. So we get the nutrients into the body. Now we can deliver it through every time you do a light session, you're actually building supply lines to the brain. Now, on top of that, we have sound. So when you think about sound, we've all probably been to a party. Maybe we didn't want to go there. We were talked into it, but they started playing music from our childhood and we started bopping and weaving. And pretty soon the person who brought us said, I didn't think you wanted to come. Well, they're playing all my songs, all the ones, because our cells, once they fill with energy, they will share that energy. So it's not just photobiomodulation, it's basically energy modulation. The cells want to share energy. So with light, sound, and vibration at a certain pulse and frequency, your brain will follow it. For instance, just as another example, and then we'll move on, is if you were sitting with me next to a river or an ocean, that river and ocean has a resonant frequency of 10 hertz. 10 hertz happens to be alpha, the neutral for the brain. So our body will feel relaxed there. So a lot of people say, oh, I love going to the ocean. I love sitting by a river, a big body of water, a lake. Well, that's because you're getting the reflection. Those mirror neurons are working to calm you down because we're 70% water. So those frequencies are resonating together, causing a calming effect. Once you're calmed, now we can present information to the brain. Because if you're stressed out, worried, anxious, you're not going to listen. You've talked to people before when they're angry or upset, when you have a negative emotional state. And there's one thing that the listeners need to know. Every negative emotional state has one thing in common: lack of breath. There's not one negative emotional state where you breathe, because the moment you start breathing, that negative emotional state leaves. So the key is to practice breathing before you get into those emotional states so you don't let them control you, but you control them. That's what every Tai Chi master, when Buddha said, he who angers you conquers you, this because when you're in a calm space within yourself, no one has your remote control. That's what I taught my kids. Don't give away your remote control to another person. Be centered and focused within yourself. And it doesn't matter. And I have a black belt in Taekwondo. So when we used to do competitions, and I was in sports, you had to be able to get rid of all that outside noise. That's why I think sports is so good for kids, is they learn that technique. And if you didn't do it, it's almost like a ship without a rudder. You just let, if somebody says this thing or that thing, you get pulled away. So think of intense, when you're talking about focused, intense thought, we're putting them into a physiological state where they're in that focused, intense thought. Now you can visualize and begin to realize your future because you're doing it anyway. But if you're doing it chaotically, because your brain's always predicting the future. That's what grief is about, by the way. When people say, why am I grieving? It's because the neural pathways have been put in place where like somebody dies that you didn't expect to die, let's say, and you go, now your brain's going, what am I supposed to put in that place? Because I already predicted that I would be with them on every Tuesday we had dinner, or I would call them every Friday or whatever. And the brain doesn't have a space for that. So that's why it's not about time. It's about space. It's about what are you going to put in that space? Who are you going to fill it with? So we're all addicted to something. I always tell people, get addicted to things that are going to cause you health, harmony, and vitality. Get addicted to being in love with yourself. And you don't have to share that with others. You just want to do things that are good for your body, good for your mind, good for your community. And you'll find that there'll be an emotional payoff for that. And so BrainTap gives you that place, even in a busy house You've seen it at trade shows where there's just craziness all around, and it looks like the people are passed out in the chairs because your mind can isolate and just get rid of all that outside noise. And for that brief 10 minutes or 20 minutes of time, you are training your brain to become focused on what you really want, which is health, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. It's such a wealth of information for people. And I wanted to mention that, we could go on forever, but for the, FitFam podcast, and I know we'll have you on some more to talk about some very specific areas that can help people. But in order to take advantage of this actual technique, number one, just breathe, do the 4 to 8 uh, breathing, at night, and you can take a win away from this podcast. But if you really want more information on this, or you really want BrainTap, you can immediately go to braintap.com, and we'll put a link in this episode. But I'm going to encourage everyone. Me and you have decided that enough's enough. We do seminars and go to seminars and teach all over the world, and I think we both came to that conclusion of, wait, there's no one place for people to come that is a true holistic health fitness seminar. We always give, right? We'll go to one seminar and it's this biohacking seminar and it's great, but yet there's things there that we might not want to share with our children or other people. Like, we have to take it with a grain of salt, and because of our knowledge, decide how we're going to use those tools. Or, would take my kids to the Olympia and the Arnold Classic every year, and I had to be very careful about, okay, well, these guys are actually promoting things that, like steroids and that. They're just doing it subtly. And so we have to educate them, and we have to be on our guard, even though there's some great seminars from all over the place. And we decided that, between the both of us, we're going to put on this seminar that takes all that away, that everyone could come, they could bring their families. We're having over 1,000 doctors come. We're having the top natural athletes on the planet come for a USA bodybuilding championship, but an expo, and get to hear speakers, you being one of the keynote speakers, Dr. Ben Hardy being a keynote. I think you're bringing Alex Grail, right? Tom Brady's trainer, and myself and many others. And I would suggest to everyone that if you're wanting to hear Dr. Porter in person and get more of this information, get a phenomenal deal on BrainTap itself, I would encourage you to come to the BrainTap OHS Super Seminar that we're holding in Las Vegas in September. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Well, our doctors have been asking for it. I haven't put one on. And you said, hey, I'm doing an event. Would you like to co-sponsor it with me? And I said, sure. And so BrainTap doctors, if you're on this, watching this, hopefully you're there. We're going to have a special day on Sunday as well, just to help you with your business and helping you to share this with others. But what's nice is this time we're going to actually have a playground for people to come and play. So if you've thought, wow, what kind of health optimization strategies might I want to use in my life? We've handpicked the ones that you and I both love.
Yep.
They're going to be there in the kind of the playground where people can come experience those things without having to buy them. You can just come and experience them. So the experience alone is worth the price of admission, because it's like going to Disneyland if you're into self-help. And I think that they're going to learn a lot if they attend. So, I mean, it's one of the events, and I go to a lot of events. You see me there. Sometimes I just fly in for the day and fly out. This is obviously one of the events I stay at, and I want to learn from people. You always have great people everything is backed by science. So, science-based information is always really great for me. I know some people just want to see the flash, but we've been around enough that there's a lot of things that can look good on the surface, but these things are tested through time and validated. So, I mean, if people want to learn from the best of the best, they want to come out to Vegas.
Absolutely. So again, we'll put the link in the bottom, the super seminar, end of September, the Rio Convention Center in Las Vegas. And it's the first time we've ever done something where we've really invited the public, right? The public's invited to come. Doctors are invited. The top natural bodybuilders in the world will be there. Hillary will be competing, defending her title in the USA open figure division. So again, everyone, please take something home from this that you can immediately apply. Go ahead, and if you don't want to wait, go and click on the link and check out BrainTap and take advantage of it. But for sure, come see us do what we do best on stage, teaching and sharing. And I know that it'll be a life-changing experience for you. Dr. Porter, one of my takeaways today, I've heard you say it many times, but was really on, the mirror neurons and how we, will mirror our outside environment, and that actually will dictate a lot of times our happiness, our mood, right? Everything that's going on. And from there, I love the concept that whatever that is that we're mirroring, then the body will say, okay, we like that, or that is the way it is. We might not
Mm,
even like it, right? We're in a bad
right.
environment, but the body's going to say, these are the nutrients needed to be able to handle this environment. And so if we are around good people, good environment, and we're like at, super seminar or just around positive things, and our neurons are mirroring that, that'll help us to be attracted to the right foods, to, be committed to more exercise. And so it's just so important to hang around those who you want to be like. And we encourage everyone to take advantage of BrainTap, come to the super seminar, be around those that not just talk about health, but they exude health in our personal journeys and everything that we do. So any takeaway or that you would like to share with people in closing, Dr. Porter?
I think just one thing, we always tell people you got to hang around gainers, not drainers. And when you come to the super seminar, you're going to see a lot of people who are gainers. They're looking to improve the quality of their life, and they're out to change the world. And you might not think you're one of those people, but if you're listening to this podcast, you are, because you're called to do something. We all have to step up and take a stand for health and vitality and really own our sovereignty as far as health goes. So I'm going to invite you to come share your light with us, and let's all build a better world through nutrition and movement and brain fitness.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. And as always, at the FitFam podcast of Doug the Formulator, we excuse Hillary, Miss Olympia today. But Dr. Porter, thank you so much for being here, being our first What's Up Doc in our series. And I just kind of I hope that everyone sees how important the message that Dr. Porter has to be the very first out of the thousands of doctors that we work with and people around the world, that we think that the mindset is most important. We know that to be true. And so thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the super seminar, and I'm sure many more in between.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.